Karen, winter blues.
Yeah, that time of year's hit again, hasn't it, Rob? As I've mentioned before, one of the ways of coping with any of life's downs, including winter blues, is to have a good level of happiness before you start. But let's assume for a second that people haven't, and that we're starting, or we haven't worked on that already.
Probably about 95% of the population haven't,
Yes.
so let's be honest.
So let's assume that we haven't done that and winter's hit. One of the things I find, I used to tell myself and tell everyone else around me, I hate winter. All winter I go around and say, I hate winter, I hate the cold. And one day I realised what I was doing, and I thought, well, of course I'm going to hate it if I keep telling myself I hate it. So this is going to sound easy and hard all at the same time, because working with your mind is actually, it sounds simple, but it's actually not.
Yeah.
I never say that anymore. I refuse to, because I know that, because your body and your emotions follow your mind. So I change my thoughts and I tell myself, winter's good. There's lots of things I like about winter, and I'm purposely self-talking all the time. I've only recently come to realise quite how much I do it. I self-talk a lot to build my happiness or my mood up, because let's face it, life in general brings our mood down. Winter especially brings it down, so you've got to self-talk a lot to bring it back up. So I'm constantly saying, life is good.
So what I'm talking about, I guess, is a week of overcast, bleak days.
Yes.
And it's pretty hard to sort of find something good about that.
There is, but there's two ways that I would deal with that. And the first way is this. Let's talk about choice for a minute. Have you ever read Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning?
No.
It's a great book. It's only a little book, but it's really, really good. I think it's a bestseller. And Viktor Frankl was a psychologist or psychiatrist, young man, Jew, who went into the concentration camps. And this book is about that, but it's very different from most books about the concentration camps, because he was interested in the way the mind works, being a psychiatrist. So he wrote the book from that perspective, and he wrote about what made some people do well and some people not do well. And it's quite fascinating, but one of the things he said, which really got to me, was that we had choice. And you think, how can someone in a prison, in a concentration camp, have choice? And he said, you might think you've got no choice and no control, but he said the opposite is true. He said you've got choices to make every minute of every day. Like, do I eat this bit of bread now or save it for later because it's all I've got? And he said it was all about the choices you made through the day. And when I think about that, that really struck a chord with me. And I think I've got a choice in everything, whether I think I have or not. So, like, for instance, on a horrible winter day, you're wondering where I'm going with this, aren't you?
I wasn't going to say anything about that, no.
On a horrible winter's day, we've got a choice. We can be here in our life doing what we're doing, or we can, like, if we hate winter that much, right, we could live in India where it's cheap, or Indonesia where it's cheap. We could move and live there and never have winter, right? Why don't we? We're choosing, whether you believe it or not, we're choosing not to for whatever reasons. There's good and bad, good and bad for everything, but we're choosing the life we've got. And on the horrible days, I remind myself, Karen, if you wanted to be off living cheaply in Indonesia, you could be. You're choosing to be here. And when I remind myself that I'm choosing it, it makes me feel better. We could choose to swan off to Australia tomorrow. Yes, it would cost money that we've got earmarked for something else, but we could do it. We might lose our house because we can't pay the rent, but we could do it. We're choosing to spend our money in this way and stay here. It makes all the difference.
How important are treats? I mean, to me, winter is roast vegetables and roast meats, and that's the treat for me.
If we talk practically, there's lots of practical things you can do to lift your mood. But what about if you were to treat yourself with a kind thought, with a really sweet thought? Because we treat ourselves with sweet foods or good foods or wines. What if you were to treat yourself with a really kind and loving thought?
Oh, yeah, right. I mean, we're talking here about New Zealanders who, if they look in the mirror, they can't say I love you, because they've been, for the last 5 or 10 generations, we've been told we can't.
I'm giving you the answer here. This works. But you're right, it's not easy. You've got sometime in some people a lifetime of thinking negatively about yourself, of pulling yourself down, especially when we look in the mirror. We're really good at that. This works, but you've got to if you start with a little tiny better thought, telling yourself that you love yourself is quite a big step up for some people. Start with a little thought like, yeah, I'm not the best looking person in the world, but I'm a good person. That's a little good thought, right? And we can start having we can start treating ourselves with our thoughts, which is going to make us feel better, which, funnily enough, is going to make us feel better about the winter blues.
that's the sort of thing where you say, I've got some very good stock out here because I'm actually a very good farmer.
What a good thought to have. That's a treat if you were to think that about yourself. But we don't, do we? We
It's
think
just
that
being proud of yourself, is it?
it's good to be proud of yourself. It's really good. I was out with some people in a walking group yesterday, and someone said to the other person, you look really young for your age. And he said, I know. And the other person, like, oh, you shouldn't say that. And I thought to myself, yes, you should. You're allowed to accept a compliment. You're allowed to feel proud of yourself, but we think that we're not allowed to. Or so we're definitely not allowed to have nice thoughts about ourselves.
This comes back to the reality of we feeling special, and as I said, 98% of the population won't do it because it's been drummed out of them.
Yes, I'm not worthy, I'm not deserving, are thoughts that we don't necessarily walk around with but are in our subconscious mind. And so if you're not worthy or deserving or good enough, you definitely can't have a nice thought about yourself, and you definitely can't accept a compliment that comes your way either.
How do you, I know this is a really strange question, but how do you get somebody who has taken hidings all their lives to turn that round?
As you know, I practice a form of energy psychology known as EFT.
And you've got an amazing book.
Thank you, I do. I do say so myself. And it is I think EFT is amazing because it can truly change those beliefs that you've held your whole life. And just saying to yourself, you need to believe in yourself, you need to treat you, all the things I'm saying today are really hard to do. But if we use EFT, they become easy.
And getting rid of all that negativity is actually very, very valuable.
Well, if we've got time for a short analogy.
Very, very short.
If I've got a muddy hole of dirty, muddy water in my backyard and I say to you, Rob, can you help me clean it out? And you go, yeah, of course I will. And you bring this big bucket of clean water and you tip it in. You haven't cleaned it out at all, have you?
No.
And if we imagine that the clean water is positivity, same in life. If you just try and be positive but you haven't cleaned the dirt out first, i.e. the negative thoughts, beliefs and emotions, it's not going to be successful.
Right, so clean it out and do it. Now listen, if you'd like to go back over what Karen has been saying, do that. Go to our website, which is ontheland.co.nz. I'm Rob Cope-Williams. You've either been watching or you've just missed the program, but I will be back at the same time next week. Until then, bye now.